Tomorrow, a series of community events kick off to celebrate the Harlem and Black history. It's been 100 years since the Harlem Renaissance. In the 20s and 30s, African Americans from the South moved north for economic opportunity. They established new communities of their own, and many people made Harlem their new home. Artists, writers, and intellectuals were drawn to the neighborhoods, and they created an era of new artistic and social expression. It was a time of optimism and racial pride. To mark this centennial anniversary, Harlem Renaissance 100 is a celebration of Harlem's legacy as a Mecca of Black culture, then, now, and forever.
And forever, yes.
And forever. Harlem historian John Reddick is here now to tell us more about it. Thank you for being here, John.
Thank you for having us.
It's exciting seeing that film photographs of such a time, like we say, that pride and excitement. Why now, 100
well, it really
years?
comes, the global identity of Harlem really comes out of that period after the First World War. And the notoriety that made that happen was the Harlem Hellfighters, a regiment from Harlem, Black but diverse people from the Caribbean and other places were part of this regiment soldiers, but also they had a very famous band that was part of it. And that parade, them returning after the war in 1919, the Armistice Parade was the global presence that went to, we were looking at it on the monitor there, the global presence that made people from the Caribbean, from Georgia to the Caribbean come to Harlem.
So important to remember this era. So you're going to be witnessing and enjoying things that are happening, a lot of events.
Right, well, the kickoff is tomorrow at St. John the Divine, and we're really going to be celebrating that regiment. It's a musical past. We're having groups, the Harlem Opera Theater Company and other groups perform, and there's going to be music. There's going to be some film clips shown as well. And it's a kickoff to a whole, this year, but also we hope that it's continuous, the Harlem 100 years past, and looking at the players and the activities that were part of that.
One of those activities, the crawl.
Well, there's the crawl. We start out with this event, like I said, at St. John the Divine, and then there's a crawl where we're bringing in the restaurants and cultural institutions. So if you haven't been to Harlem in a while, a lot of the restaurants now have music as a component of that. And even though we're looking at history, you have to think about this whole mix that we talk about, not just the people from Georgia, but the people from Jamaica coming together. That didn't happen until the Harlem Renaissance. So I wouldn't have known about slave history in Brazil or these other countries, and coming together in New York, they realized, oh my God, we're all from Africa. We've all had this experience. How can we bring it forward in stories and music? And that diversity still is happening in Harlem. A lot of people from West Africa have come to settle in Harlem in the last decade. They have restaurants and places there. So we want, we're getting a real influx of African-American youth and visitors. And we want locals to really start to think about it more.
A book I read a couple of years ago about Sugar Ray Robinson by Will Haygood, and just the images of Robinson and other families.
Well, athletes always do. We're looking at Kobe Bryant right now, but the sense that the physical warrior is something we think about, but that physical warrior gets incorporated into plays, into music. And so this early music, James Reese Europe, who's part of that regiment band, he was, I would say he was like the rap music of his era. That's, James Reese Europe is who Gershwin is listening to and wants to imitate. George Balanchine's coming to America, but he wants to see what Catherine Dunham is doing around Caribbean music. So the spirituality of the 20th century comes out of this effort. And that music and those rhythms that we're talking about, gospel or jazz or hip hop, are still going on in Harlem. And we really want people to know about that.
The Cotton Club, we can't not mention the Cotton Club.
But think of that, Prohibition, we're going to there. That's one thing we're going to be looking at. This is a year that Prohibition was kicked off in the 1920s. And that energy, that money, resource allowed Duke Ellington to just be a musician, not a bellhop in the daytime and, a musician at night. Lena Horne could be a chorus girl, and that's all she had to do. And that demand, that audience demand, created the culture. And so we want to use that as the underpinning of what's going forward as well now.
So we're talking about enrichment, respect, interest, but we're also talking about tourism.
Well, tourism, because that was the undercurrent of the Harlem Renaissance, and people have this curiosity about Harlem. I think there's a lot of misplaced sense of what that is, but there's groups that have been here doing things like the Dance Theater of Harlem, Harlem Opera Company and Theater. A lot of these groups have been doing the work, the hard work, and we want them to be exposed. Everyone thinks about the Apollo and the Apollo's doing really great things. That's the big house on the block, but even they draw from a lot of the cultural groups, and we want you to come up and see it all firsthand.
So I have to ask, John, as a historian of Harlem, what your interest? Did you grow up there?
I grew up in Philadelphia.
Okay.
But the architecture, that's another point. The soldiers coming back from the First World War now, they fought for the French, not for America. They fought under the banner of the French. They came back with the Croix de Guerre for their valor. And they're marching up the streets of Harlem, and they're going, wow, my neighborhood looks like Paris. They've been to Paris, now they're coming back, and Harlem is really fashioned around the Beaux-Arts style, the wide boulevards and all of that. And so that's energizing that community. James Baldwin's looking down that avenue and seeing the rising Empire State Building and realizes he's part. That Ginger Rogers Fred Astaire view of Manhattan is also his view of Manhattan. It's very empowering. We're living on Fifth Avenue.
Of course.
It's a 2000 block, but it's Fifth Avenue.
But just give me one more about you, a little boy in school, or was it later on? And when?
No, I came up here for the World's Fair in 1965, and my parents' friends lived at 135th and Lenox Avenue, and I could look out the window and see Small's Paradise, and those buildings are still there. The physical buildings are still there. Penn Station was being demolished, but I could still see the bones of how special that was. And even as a kid from Philly, I could feel that beat. And as an architect and person, I feel it in the ground in Harlem. It's very, very special, and I want other people to experience.
I can feel that from you.
Well, if you feel it, if you can feel it from me over TV, just imagine.
I know, being there.
Yeah, and the locals have really worked on these events that are coming up. But like I said, the crawl is going to be really, really wonderful. We can go to the website. I think you're going to scroll that at the end and see and connect with all the things that are going on.
Thank you, John Reddick. So many cool things happening. The Harlem Renaissance. If you need more information, celebrating 100 years, this great celebration, check out our website, cbsnewyork.com. 40 Harlem cultural institutions will be part of this. So much to do, so much to learn, so much to embrace.